Remote reality, yeah, that's the key. Unlocking stories wild and free. With the host, side by side. Channel surfers, let's ride.
Welcome to Remote Reality. This is Lauren. Happy Memorial Day weekend, Channel surfers. What are y'all doing this weekend? Barbecues, riding the waves of good shows. Well, I am coming through on my promise to get Toxic Season 1, Episode 2, Three's a Crowd out to the Channel surfers by the end of the week. It's Saturday, just in the nick of time. My voice is still a little bit scratchy, crackly, more than normal. It normally is, but it's, was worse because I was sick earlier this week. I'm feeling a lot better today. So Toxic is a new show. Last week I watched it on Max, but I just discovered this week it's also on Hulu and YouTube TV. And the episodes, they're only about 30 minutes long. So it's a pretty quick watch. I've been really excited to watch this episode. I was told that it might make me mad. A little scared. I'm just hoping there's no animal violence. With that said, though, there is actual images of domestic violence and violent crimes. So if you watch it, viewer discretion is advised. And if you're listening to it, listener discretion is advised as well. But you're here for the true crime. So let's get started. We start with a preview of what we're going to get in this episode, and I already know it's going to be great. Elizabeth Chambers is interviewing someone. We don't know who the person is yet. There's no Chiron, but she asks, are there patterns that you see in toxic relationships over and over again in the cases that you take on? And the woman identifies 4 patterns. So the playbook, it's psychos, assholes, pervs, and trolls. This is going to be good. I can already tell. She says every case that she gets, it's at least one of those categories. The woman explains these are not mutually exclusive. In the case we're about to see, we're getting all 4. Psycho, asshole, troll, and perv. This is going to be a train wreck, and I'm so ready for it. You see the Anaheim Police Department, what I could gather from the opening scenes that give us a preview into this show. There's something about a dark undertone of rape, beheading people, so psychopath, using VPNs, a jilted lover. It seems like a lot for sunny Anaheim, California. What's going to happen? That was a lot. How are they going to fit this into 30 minutes? The episode opens up with Elizabeth sitting on a blue sofa. It looks like she's in some sort of lobby. She's taking notes. She has her computer out. And she's saying at the end of a relationship, sometimes you don't recognize the person you were with. It's like a side of them has emerged that you hadn't seen. Maybe it's a side that you're ignoring and it was always there, but definitely relatable. At the end of a relationship, it's not always just heartbreak. Sometimes there's even more hurt and suffering. Chris Epting, he's a journalist, is speaking with Elizabeth. We see Ian and Angela. Angela has dark shoulder-length hair. Ethan looks tall with shorn brown hair. We're told that they seem like kindred spirits. This is giving twin flame vibes. I don't know if you saw that documentary, Red Flag. However, we see that they've got everything together. We see an engagement ring. Ian has a thriving career as a U.S. Marshal. That's so awesome. I practice in federal court, and I love the Marshals. They're so fun. I love to talk, and so do the Marshals. So a lot of times while I'm waiting on my case, I'll sit out there and just chat. We'll just have a whole long conversation. I've always got to make sure I'm not late for my hearing. And we see him in his marshal outfit at some federal building. Angela and Ethan, they're newlyweds. They're madly in love. All of a sudden we see emails. I don't want to hurt you. You may need to learn the hard way. Who is sending this? 4 months into the marriage. Maybe this is where the jilted lover comes in. You need to be taught a lesson. Well, she will be taken tonight. An animal with a chain and what? Some of the images show pictures of dead women who have been brutally injured, decapitated. Got my hands up again. I'm looking through my fingers. Now, whoever is writing this knew Ian's last girlfriend, Michelle. So we learned that Ian and Michelle broke up. The author of these horrific emails says they know about Angela and Ian from Michelle. Michelle is Ian's ex-girlfriend. So there's the jilted lover. So Ian moves on rather quickly with Angela, and they move into a condo that actually Michelle had purchased with Ian. Ian says that Michelle might be jealous. You know what, Ian? You might be messy. Slow down, buddy. Nobody needs to go this fast. Now we've got pictures of decapitated people in our emails. No, okay, not your fault. Maybe. Kind of reminds me of this Dateline episode. We'll see how it turns out. We see Ian and Angela talking to police. It's a police body cam video. Angela is telling the officer about Michelle. She tells us that Michelle's demon name is Lilith. Adam's first wife was Lilith. I don't know why she's saying demon name. I think we'll find out. But that's actually from the Torah. So in Judaism, in the Torah, they believe that Adam had a wife, Lilith, who wouldn't obey. And she left, and then God made Eve out of Adam's own rib. So why I don't understand why they're saying that's demonic, unless Michelle is just a crazy person, and that's what Michelle is saying. And then we see Ethan talking to police, and he's saying, is there a way we can put this girl in cuffs tonight? That might be a way to get through to her. Maybe not. And it seems very rehearsed. At least that's the vibe I'm getting. Just the way he's saying it. So Angela does go to the Anaheim police and she gets a restraining order, which that's an order where the court says people have to restrain from you physically, sometimes even through technology. Failure to do so would be contempt of court, and you could be punished. You could even be locked up for contempt of an order. So after Angela gets the restraining order against Michelle, it doesn't seem to help. The emails are becoming more frequent and the content of them are becoming more threatening. So now we're seeing another body cam from police, and they walk into a house. There's two laptops set up across from each other. We've got Angela and Ethan. Angela's a little bit panicked, and Ian says, let me explain what's going on. He's going to control this narrative. And when he introduces himself, he identifies himself as a U.S. Marshal and says, this is concerning this bitch we have a restraining order against. Excuse my French. Honey, that's English. Anyway, that means female dog. The problem now is that Michelle is online pretending to be Angela on Craigslist in the seeking section. And what is she seeking? Men that want to live out their rape fantasies. Yeah. I think I've seen this on Dateline. Should I spoil the ending for you? We'll just say, remember, Michelle and Ian own the apartment that Angela and Ian are living in. So Michelle is the owner of that apartment. That's cryptic. Could it mean she has keys? Could it go toward motive? We'll see. Angela is saying since May, they have over 60 emails from Michelle. You see the officer questioning Ian and Angela about this Craigslist link they got. The officer has a fair question. How do we know Michelle sent that? How do we know that Michelle created this profile for Angela? Remember, the first emails we were seeing said they know about Angela and Ian through Michelle. Officers leave that night and they're not able to do an arrest because they aren't able to give the officers proof that this is Michelle. Unfortunately, these emails are coming from fake addresses or anonymous addresses. You're going to need to get some pros in there who can track down IP addresses. Another night, police show up and Michelle is still a free woman. We see Ian telling the police officers that Michelle has it out for Angela because they're no longer together and she's envious. She's jealous. She's in a rage. And he's trying to convince the officers she set this up. It wasn't someone else. But unfortunately, he's a marshal. He should know that he's got to have proof. We've got to find a way to trace this to Michelle. So for weeks, the Anaheim police are investigating this, trying to solve this riddle. And as they're poring over the voluminous amount of emails, more just keep coming in. Trigger warning, infertility, miscarriages. Ian and Angela are telling police on the body cam, Angela is recently pregnant again, but 4 months ago they had lost a pregnancy because of the stress. So they're trying to impart on the police officers just how much this is physically damaging Angela. This is putting a life at risk now. They want to impress on them that this is serious. So we find out why Ian and Michelle's relationship didn't work out. It's because she cheated on him with like 6 or 7 dudes from Tinder. And he said that when he confronted her about it, he had his friend Leslie there as a witness to hear the whole conversation. He said, go ahead and move out. And she left. Their demeanor in this seems very strange, though. They seem calm, which is maybe why the police aren't picking up why Michelle is such a threat. Maybe it's because Ian is a marshal, so he can keep a cool head in stressful situations. But this isn't work. This is affecting you and your wife and your unborn child. And they just seem very matter of fact about it. And what made me pontificate on that was when he was saying his friend Vanessa was there as a witness. Like, he knew he needed evidence. He specifically had her come as a witness. But what she witnessed was him accusing Michelle of screwing around with him with 6 or 7 guys on Tinder and him telling Michelle to leave. What the police officers are looking for is proof Michelle is sending these emails. And while I understand he's saying, well, I've got proof I kicked her out because she was cheating on me, she really isn't a good person. That's not going to be enough to arrest for this case, for these charges that they're trying to bring. The officer just tells them to stay vigilant, stay safe, make sure your doors are locked. Now it starts to go beyond the email. We're told this guy shows up to enact this rape fantasy that pretend Angela is on Craigslist seeking. And real Angela is at the house when it happens. And the guy comes in, he's grabbing her by the hair, grabbing her by the neck, being rough with her, trying to enact this fantasy, thinking that this is a consenting person that wants this, not realizing that this is a victim. And we see pictures of Angela with red marks on her neck. And at this point, no doesn't even matter. Part of the rape fantasy would imply somebody saying no. This seems like a very dangerous fantasy for people to engage in. Like, they should have some safety precautions. Like, each of us will be wearing a certain pineapple pen, something like that, something that you wouldn't expect people to just randomly have on. That would have to be an effort. That could signify consent. The way it's happening, it seems very dangerous. It can be done more responsibly. Somehow, Angela is lucky enough to escape. And we see pictures of her. She has a dark bruise around her neck. And that was enough. The police finally feel that they've got to do something. There's circumstantial evidence. And now we're having Angela attacked in her home. So they go ahead and they arrest Michelle. And we see an article, woman accused of soliciting rape fantasy ads on Craigslist as ex-boyfriend's wife. As soon as Michelle is taken into custody, the emails and threats immediately stop. Michelle is charged with multiple felonies, attempted forcible rape, stalking, and she's facing life in prison. Yeah, well, that's a dangerous game she's playing if these allegations are true. But I'm getting a weird vibe off this couple. This is it. Case is over. It's Michelle. Because who else would it have been? See, that's not really proof beyond a reasonable doubt. You can eliminate other people. There can be a lot of things pointing toward her, but you have to prove it's her. Do we have an IP address? Do we have people in her circle she's told about her diabolical plan? It's hard to imagine she would do all this and keep it a secret from everybody. Somebody might know. She may have confessed to someone. And this investigator says, that's it. It's Michelle. Obviously, all signs are pointing to Michelle. It's got to be her. And then next sentence turns around and says, we are being fed a script. We are asking the wrong questions. Well, it's a plot twist. Everything flips around. We see a woman with long brown hair walk into her room. She has a huge smile on her face. She sits down with Elizabeth. Elizabeth says, hi, Michelle. And she smiles and says, hi. She does not look evil. This does not appear to be a jailhouse interview. It's actually a very well-decorated house that has cream beige walls, these really cute mid-century modern orange chairs. There's candles over a fireplace. It's very pretty. This is not giving me jailhouse interview vibes. Elizabeth asks Michelle to tell us about the day she was served with the restraining order. She goes to the door and opens it to find Leslie, the witness that Ian said he had when he told her to move out. She was standing at the door in her marshal's uniform. She serves Michelle with the restraining order. Michelle says this is the first time she's ever seen Angela's name before. She has no idea who this person is until she gets to the bottom of the restraining order and sees that she's married to Ian. So the day after she was served with the restraining order, she calls the Anaheim Police Department 3 times, continues to leave messages. She says, look, they're saying I sent these emails and I didn't, which is good because now, as far as the defense, you would have a record that she immediately went to police and denied that she was the one that sent these emails. As far as police investigating that, though, I don't think they would just give up on investigating her because she says she didn't send it. They would continue that investigation, make sure they're thorough, that they exclude her from the suspects. They're not going to just take her word on it. And hopefully they haven't laser focused on her. Hopefully they're still exploring other avenues. Although this seems to be moving pretty quickly because it does seem to be such a danger to Ian and Angela. Angela's pregnant. She's now been attacked. 3 weeks after the restraining order, police pull over Angela. And at first she's thinking, good, they're here to help me. They got my messages, finally. Hey guys, a phone call would have been nice. The officers tell her, no, we have a warrant to confiscate your electronic devices. She's thinking, awesome, go ahead, take a look. You can see it wasn't me. And then the officers said, well, we're here to arrest you as well and put her in cuffs. So I think that's the help she was looking for. And it just doesn't make sense because she said she didn't violate the restraining order. She doesn't even know who Angela is. That night, she calls her dad on the phone after her bail hearing. The court set her bail at $1 million. In a bail hearing, you have to show that you're not a flight risk and not a danger to the community. I don't know anything about Michelle's family, if she's originally from that area, if she has to travel for work. At this point, I don't know any factors that would go toward flight risk. But as far as danger to the community, the last time she was in jail, the threat stopped. But when she got out, it got worse. And that could be used as proof. It's circumstantial, but it could be used as proof that she would be more of a danger outside of jail because things escalated and someone got attacked last time she was let out. It's not proof of her guilt. It's just whether or not she has to wait in jail for her hearing on her charges or if she doesn't have to be in jail for her hearing. But her dad said, all right, we can either pay that or use the money to get you a really good attorney. A lot of times you can use a bondsman. So he may not have been talking about paying $1 million. It may have been like 100,000, a 10% bond, but I just wonder what her history was. If she had ever been in trouble before, any prior arrests, I would use the money for the attorney. The other thing about waiting for trial locked up, if she did get a sentence, she would have time served toward that sentence. And in plea bargaining, you might be able to get time served for the time that you've already spent waiting on trial. So you can spend your time in the county jail instead of in the state prison, which the jail is easier time. So I would put the money on the attorney. And Michelle agrees. She tells her dad, get the attorney. I can handle it. As she's recounting this, she has tears in her eyes. It must have been frightening for her. But this is why you always hear, get an attorney, do not talk to police. Because even when you're innocent, things can be twisted. Innocent facts might be presented under the light of a non-innocent theory. If you mess up just once between the police officers questioning you, they'll say, well, see, you lied to me about that. What else are you lying to me about? And Angela has no idea what to expect. She just knows that she's facing life in prison. And she says, I just need an attorney to prove that I'm innocent. That's great if the attorney can prove you're innocent, but it's up to the government, the prosecuting agency, to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you're guilty. You don't have to prove innocence. You're innocent until proven guilty. And it doesn't feel like that when you're sitting behind bars with $1 million bail hanging over you for violation of a restraining order for someone you've never seen. But this is why we are supposed to presume innocent and look for the state to meet that burden. Let's see the proof. Let's see where you can connect her to these anonymous emails through an IP address or a VPN. Let's see where you can connect her to these fake emails. The word of the ex wouldn't be enough. He thinks he has a motive, but no firsthand knowledge that she's the one doing this. It's not like he's seeing her write the emails. He just has a theory and he's going with it. He's probably worried. A lot's going on. His wife's being attacked, but a motive doesn't prove a case. You have to have evidence. And as a marshal, he should know that. We find out from Michelle, she already knows who the mastermind is behind this. So everybody's got a theory. I wonder if she has any proof. What if the police are getting any proof? So we go back to October 2013. This is when Michelle meets Ian. She thought he was just this good guy, U.S. Marshal, wants to help everybody all around, just a good American kid. The relationship went fast, which is also what happened with Angela. Red flag. They met in October 2013. They were spending a lot of time together. Things got physical quickly. We find out that within 6 months, they're living together. After a year, Michelle and Ian get engaged. And shortly after that, they're driving and Ian pulls up to these new construction condos. And he's like, let's go take a look. So they're thinking about their future. They go in. They like the condos. And they decide to buy one. They decide to get a mortgage together. But when it comes time for that down payment, Michelle puts the $14,000 up for this down payment. And this is the condo at the beginning of the episode that Ian now lives in with Angela. So she's committed to him. She's putting $14,000 down on a condo. And she's on Tinder with 6 or 7 guys. What went wrong? Michelle tells us about concerns that she had once they signed those documents to buy the house. Concerns she had been having about Ian. She said he was controlling. He wanted to dictate every aspect of what she looked like, what she wore, what length her nails were. Suggested that she get a boob job. She describes him as building the body that he wants. Red flags. And also buying property without being married. So hard if there is a breakup because there's no family court to divide that asset. Ian had guns all over the apartment. And one day when Michelle was going to leave, he grabbed her, pushed her down on the bed, started trying to pull her by her feet. She was scared. She thought he would get a gun. She feels like she's stuck. He's in law enforcement. She feels like they're going to take his word over hers. We get this story on the day that Michelle moved out. The night before, she had gone out to dinner with Ian. And he said, "You're not this special little snowflake." And she explains that cut into her core beliefs because she believed everyone was special and unique. And why would you tell the person that you love and are going to marry that they're not unique? Why are you marrying them? The next day, she comes home and Ian's friend Leslie is at their apartment. And she said, this is the moment. This is when I can get out. He can't overreact. He's not going to pull his gun. She saw Leslie as a witness to protect her. Isn't it interesting how Ian flipped this around to the police? So after Michelle moved out, she moved back in with her parents and she had to hire attorneys because she and Ethan couldn't come to an agreement on how to split this property. Attorneys could do a partition action, which is when you take the property to the court and they sell it. What they ended up agreeing to on the settlement was as long as Ian continued to make the mortgage payments, he could stay in the condo for 6 months. And he would need to refinance it because the mortgage was in both of their names. He would need to get a mortgage on his own to pay off the existing mortgage. And then the house would be his. If he didn't do that within 6 months, they agreed they would sell it and split the equity. And if he didn't honor that agreement, I'm guessing they would do a partition action, which would be costly. That's probably what they were trying to avoid by giving him so much grace. 6 months. That's time to reinvent your life, to have sufficient income or try to get more income to qualify for that mortgage. It's not, you've got to turn this around today. And then she's agreeing to split the equity 50-50, even though she put the $14,000 down for the down payment. As long as that condo is owned by the two of them, he's in her life. He's messaging her about innocent things, like, I want to stay in the condo for however long. But then he's trying to love bomb her, to woo her back. And then he's sending threats like, I canceled your car insurance. Be careful when you're on the road. This man is toxic. So for the first few months, Michelle is living in fear. Is she going to get pulled over by one of Ian's buddies? What is he going to do to destroy her? And as they got to the end of the mortgage assumption process, which assuming a mortgage is actually different than taking out a mortgage and refinancing. It's taking on the liability for the mortgage that's already there. Basically, it would be releasing Michelle from her obligation to repay the joint mortgage. And Ian would be the responsible party by assuming it. And at the end of the 6 months, there's no assumption of the mortgage. So Michelle decides to move forward with their agreement, which is that she sell the house and they split the equity. As soon as she states this intent, that's when the emails start coming to Angela. Impeccable timing. Michelle's father decided to take the investigation into his own hands. There's cameras on the condo. Nobody's ever seen coming or going, even though Michelle is sitting in jail for allegedly creating a fake account and attacking Angela with rape fantasies. The cameras don't show that. Michelle's father knows what he's doing. The cameras, that's still circumstantial. That's some evidence. But he gets the direct evidence. He gets the good stuff. He pulls out some papers. He's got the IP address of where the emails are being sent from. And it's identical to the IP address for the condo. The call is coming from inside the house. Her dad cracked the code. I've been screaming IP address this whole time. Looking through the emails, Michelle's dad also sees what he calls the footprint of Ian throughout it, using nicknames like Nishi that Angela wouldn't know about. Just all kinds of little details that only Ian would have personal knowledge of. So Michelle's dad turns to the Anaheim police. The police say, well, that's a U.S. Marshal issue. And then the marshals punt it back to the police. The problem here is the police department, they were lazy. Even though they subpoenaed the platforms, they didn't look at what they subpoenaed. They didn't go through the IP addresses. Michelle's dad did. These are investigators who are being paid with our tax dollars, and they're just taking everything for it as face value. You have to wonder, is that because Ian's a marshal? This is what they call tunnel vision. They focused on Michelle. They didn't exclude other witnesses. They didn't investigate. They just decided she was guilty based on somebody's theory of a motive and went with it. And had they just looked at the records they subpoenaed, they would have realized the call is coming from inside the home, or in this case, the email. Michelle says while she's in jail, she's seen as a goody two-shoes, and she gets accused of being a snitch. Snitches get stitches. She is afraid. Every time they transport her, she's terrified that she's going to be attacked. And she's in the highest security block because of what she's being charged with. Now, I've walked into high security block prisons to meet with clients before, but that's different. You're the good guy in that situation. You're the defense attorney. That just has to be very horrifying. The media swarmed in on this case. It affected Michelle's parents' business almost immediately. They didn't want to do business with the woman's family who is accused of doing these crazy things and trying to get strangers to rape her ex-boyfriend's new wife. The effects of this rippled, all because she wanted to sell the house and split that equity that she paid her for. And we're told that year, Michelle got the award for the craziest person in Orange County. You know what? I hope for the decade, the century, for every year ongoing, it goes to Ian. That's what toxic people do. They make it seem like their exes are all the crazy ones, not them. And the plot keeps twisting. All of a sudden, when they start looking at these IP addresses, it's not just the condo. It's places like Angela's parents' home. We see a news report on it. The reporter is describing Ian as John Doe, and it's showing Angela and Michelle linked to each other through John Doe, Ian. At this point, I realized how much Angela and Michelle look alike. It's kind of creepy. But Angela, she ended up pleading guilty to 10 felony and 22 misdemeanor charges, including kidnapping, false imprisonment, and falsely reporting a crime. The kidnapping and the false imprisonment probably stem from the false report of the crime, where Michelle's freedom was taken from her because of the lies that Angela told police. And she was sentenced to 5 years in jail. But why? Why would she do that? Michelle was still worried they were trying to cover up Ian's involvement. And Michelle, who was once this sweet, soft-spoken, empathetic, doesn't want to cause any problems, laid back kind of person, she's somebody that's ready to fight now. After almost 3 months in jail, she's released and she goes straight to the press. You see her attorneys talking about how they know the boyfriend is involved because Angela wouldn't have this information without Ian. She wouldn't know to call Michelle Michi. And while Michelle feels a little more safe with Angela being arrested, that's not enough. She knows Ian was involved and he needs to pay for what he did. When the police did the press conference to arrest Angela, they requested through Angela's counsel that she not attend the press conference. And that's where they showed the chart with Ian as John Doe and basically placing the blame on Angela. It's almost like they didn't want Michelle there to cause a scene. I'm still questioning, what would Angela's motive be? Her husband clearly dislikes his ex, and it came from an IP address at Angela's parents' house, but I'm sure their son-in-law had been there. Could be both of them. It doesn't have to be just one of them. And Angela and her family and her attorneys have been going to police and saying, this has to be him. Angela would not have knowledge of the things that he's putting in these emails. So Michelle thinks this is a clear cover-up. The police know how much information there is against him, and she feels like they're trying to protect their own because he's a marshal. Anaheim police, they decided not to press charges against the federal marshal. Ian was lying to the police. He said that Michelle had been stalking the condo, but the security camera doesn't show anybody, definitely not Michelle, stalking the condo. We see where he's telling police that Michelle cheated on him, again, with those 6 to 7 Tinder guys. But in reality, we find out Ian was the one cheating on Michelle. He's just twisting everything around and blatantly lying to the police, which, again, Angela served time for that. That's a crime. False police reports. And Elizabeth's not having it. She wants answers. She set up an interview with Anaheim Police Department to see if she could get to the bottom of why Ian was never arrested. As we're sitting in the interrogation room, one of the producers tells Elizabeth he's not coming. He wants to come do the interview, but apparently the police aren't letting him. So there was no interview. He didn't want to go on the record. For years, Michelle thought she wouldn't have justice. She had proof that Ian was involved in this. He was the mastermind, and he was just walking free. We meet Harry Linsky. Harry says that Ian was a mastermind. He was setting up Michelle to get arrested. He was covering his tracks with Angela every step of the way. He was carefully crafting this story and trying to leave his fingerprints off of it. But Angela, she did lie about being pregnant. It seems like there's some untruths. We don't know why. It could be just dealing with his toxic drama and her trying some creative angles. It could be that they were in cahoots together to go after Michelle. But if that was the case, if they had a plan, if they conspired to do this, would she protect Ian? They haven't been married long, and he's just dragged her into this drama with his ex. I don't know if she would. We don't hear that she's gone forward to police to say that, yeah, this was a conspiracy. We both were involved in this, but I just don't understand why. I mean, snitches get stitches, but that man just put you in jail for 5 years and made you a felon over his drama. Well, he didn't do it. If she did the crime, she's doing the time. But he is very manipulative. And somehow I feel like at the very least, he had heavy, almost coercive influence over her. Angela's role in it was obvious. Ian had been covering his tracks, and he made a mistake. When they were looking through Angela's Hotmail account, they found a few dozen emails that purportedly came from Angela herself. And when they traced them back, it went to a Department of Justice IP address. The marshals are the law enforcement officers of the Department of Justice. Unless she's taking him lunch, yeah, that busted. So who's using the DOJ's IP address? Angela or the marshal? Probably Ian. Maybe she sent the emails when she went to bring him lunch. Who knows? But given the little traces of him all over this, the lying to police, the fact that this is his ex-girlfriend, that he is the one that's in a property dispute, I have a feeling it wasn't Angela playing nice and bringing him lunch. I think he was sending it. Circumstantial. But that's where my thoughts are. Not only do they track these emails back to the DOJ IP address, they track it directly back to Ian's work phone. He didn't give anyone the password. Nobody looked at that phone except for him. They've got him. He done messed up. And he lied to police about his Craigslist usage. He says that he barely used it. He might have bought a bike once, but people were describing him as the king of Craigslist. And as far as the rape fantasies, Michelle tells us during their relationship, he told her he wants to set up this rape fantasy and record it where another guy rapes her. And she said no, and he kept pushing. Finally, she said, okay, that's fine. I need to be on something if I'm going to do this, though. He didn't watch, but he recorded it, and he sat in the other room. He has no respect for boundaries. So Michelle took NyQuil and 3 shots of liquor, so she doesn't really remember it happening. She was robo-tripping, sipping on some scissor. And afterwards, Ian started shaming her for it, saying, you need to get tested because this condom fell off. She didn't even want to do this. So Michelle had a history with Ian using Craigslist for rape fantasy sex. He knew what he was doing. And we have somebody with firsthand knowledge who can tell their experience. So for these Craigslist rape fantasies, Craigslist did require authentication from the user, and the authentications were texted to Ian's phone. Again, I think my idea about a PIN is going to be more clear because, as in this case, the consent's coming from Ian, not Angela, not Michelle, but Ian. So as the investigation's opening up, Ian tells the marshals, I'd never clicked on the link to verify the rape fantasy on the Craigslist ad. And the next day, he got a new phone number. Destroying evidence. Anybody have that on their bingo card? 5 years after the first email, Harry said Ian seemed surprised when they finally arrested. He thought he might have gotten off. So 2 years later, Ian goes to trial on the charges, and he's convicted by a jury. He was convicted of conspiracy to commit cyberstalking, obstruction of justice, and perjury. And he was sentenced to 121 months in federal prison. 21 months. That means that he had 10 years and 1 month for a sentence. Now, he might serve 85% of that and then be eligible for parole. So yeah, yes, Ian, very toxic. I even wonder what the level of Angela's involvement was, or if she was just a pawn in this too, who took a plea deal because the evidence wasn't looking good because Ian was setting her up. I feel like Ian would have coerced her to partake with him in these criminal activities. Not that that alleviates her from guilt. She is still absolutely guilty. I think it would be a mitigating factor if you were to look at sentencing, but she did. She had the 5 years and again, probably would serve 85% of that with good behavior. Anyway, All right, Channel Surfers. Well, thank you for listening. This was a good episode, and it's a story I've heard several times before. This was featured on Dateline a few seasons back, season 25, episode 21. It was called Diabolical. It is a good story, and that twist is classic. It's always interesting to see the same story from a different perspective. That's what I like about podcasts. I've listened to 20 different podcasts about the same show to find those unique perspectives. And it's also interesting what everybody picks up on that's the same. So the same with this show on ID, Toxic, we got new perspectives on it. I didn't know that Ian was a marshal. I didn't know about the police trying to cover it up. So yeah, it's always fun to see what other people think. And speaking of seeing what other people think, I want to know what you guys think. So come on over to our Facebook group. I think we have 27 people the last time I checked, which I'm pretty sure beats Mary Brown from Sister Wives Worthy Up group. Yes, ours is free, but ours is also better content, or at least that's where we're going with it. We're still building. I made a post the other day and I tagged the first 20 people who joined. So we know who the first channel surfers are. I wanted to mark that occasion. This is when it's just 20 of us. And now we're at 27. So keep sharing it. I really would love to interact with you guys, hear what you're thinking. I'm going to try to post some more community things to get the conversation going. That's definitely in the works. That's in the plans. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all of your support. And we'll see you soon, Channel Surfers. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Let's ride.